It's
Okay.
perfect.
And wait, hold on. And you recorded to the iCloud, right?
Yes, I did. Not to this computer.
Very good. Okay.
I almost made the mistake of putting it to the computer.
Oh, meetings go like that. Okay. Very good. Have a good night, everybody.
Thanks, Pablo. Hey, Bob, David, and Deb.
Hey, Ramda.
Rob. I believe we have a quorum.
Mhm.
Yeah, we do. We're just missing Rob and Courtney. All right, so I am calling this meeting now to order at 7:03. So good evening, everyone. Welcome to the March meeting of the Parks and Recreation Committee. I want to start with the first thing, which is the approval of the minutes from February. Did everyone get a chance to look over the minutes? Is there a motion on the floor?
Motion to
I-
approve.
I second it.
All in favor? Any abstentions? Oh, everybody's in favor, never mind. All right, I wanna just skip to Enzo from Councilmember Eric Dinowitz's office. He has some updates about parks and so on and so forth. So Enzo, take it away.
Thanks so much, Ramdat. So I mean, call it updates. I just wanted to, kind of give an announcement, of course, about. I'm sure for many of you, I guess the biggest concern, in regards to parks is, the mayor's proposed budget, where obviously so far it hasn't followed through with the 1% of the city budget, promise, dedicated to parks. So Eric is a member of the Fair Play Coalition, and so yesterday they held a rally on the steps of City Hall at 10 a.m. To advocate for that. He's in close communication with the Parks Chair of the Council, Shekhar Krishnan, and so you can really count on Eric's continued advocacy towards this issue. As you also, I'm not sure if you know, but Eric is also in the budget negotiating team at the council. And I believe out of 51 members, there are 12 members who are in the budget negotiating team. So this, really gives Eric, a great advantage to just advocate for, the budget he believes the city and our district deserves. And also, gives you all a stronger voice in terms of what your concerns are or what I guess you would like to see in the budget in regards to parks. So whether, maybe you could, I do hope by now all of you do have my email already, so you could reach out anytime. But, while I'm here, I was really hoping, to take notes of some feedback that you all have in regards to the budget, in regards to, especially like I said, and with the budget in regards to parks. And also if you have any questions, maybe I'll be able to answer it now, but if not, I'll make sure to, get back to you all with answers. So, I mean, just, while I'm here, do you have any questions or feedback for Eric?
Do we have any questions for Enzo from the council member's office?
Well, Ramdat. Enzo, I don't know whether you're aware or not, but a month ago, this committee passed a resolution asking Mayor Adams to fulfill his pledge for 1% funding from the city budget for the Department of Parks and Recreation. So, we're totally on board with increased funding for the Parks Department. which, as you know, has actually been cut from the last budget, the last de Blasio budget. So, anything that you think we can do in terms of advocacy, please let us know. And, that's what we want to do.
Got it. Yeah, I believe there was a vote on that resolution in the last full board meeting. So
Correct.
now
Yeah.
you reminded me. Now I remember. Thanks for that, Bob.
We'll go with Jody and then Stephanie.
So is there a budget hearing for parks scheduled yet? I just sat through 3.5 hours of sanitation today and cut the last 2 hours of land use, which went
Right.
5.5 hours.
Budget hearing for parks. I mean, I will have to go to the council calendar to check that out. I don't know if I don't want to waste my time going to the calendar, our own calendar, office calendar, and not find anything, and wouldn't want to waste anybody's time just looking for that. So give you a minute to take a look. But what we also do have now is a kind of a form that we collect whenever Eric has a hearing scheduled. So when you go to ericdinowitz.nyc/council hearing, so right whenever there are council hearings, you could submit testimony. This is pretty much different. This is just kind of for our own office to have. So when you go to the form again, it's ericdinowitz.nyc/council hearing. You're going to see a list of all the committees that he's in. It gives you a link to the council calendar as well. And through that form, you could submit any questions. And even if it's not in regards to budget, but just really about, when you see what the subject of the upcoming, hearing is about, and in this case, parks, you could fill that out. If you have any questions related that, possibly Eric could ask himself, whether it's, the commissioners there or the first deputy commissioner or whoever. So we created that form just to make sure, some of the questions that you may all have in regards to any of the committees Eric's on, we might possibly ask that. So yeah.
Oh, that's great.
And
That's really good.
I just want to quickly show the form to everyone. I'll definitely circulate this around to the committee as well. So this is right. This is it, right? Enzo?
Yes, it is. So just make
Okay.
sure it's clear to people that it's not, like submitting official testimony. So this one is just solely for our office.
Okay, perfect. Stephanie, go ahead.
So written testimony on behalf of Parks is being accepted through Friday of this week. There was a Parks Committee hearing yesterday. I don't know if it was, I was not able to attend, so I don't know what was covered in the hearing, but I imagine it was budget. So, so just to reiterate what Bob is saying, there's already been a $60 million cut to Parks since the last budget. And we just had a meeting today at Parks, and we have 100 vehicles that are out of service in the Bronx.
How many?
And there
Sorry, can you repeat that?
100 vehicles.
Just
And
in the
there is
Bronx?
no, yeah. And there's
Out of
no,
how many?
I don't know. I don't know, David. But
Okay.
it's a ridiculous number.
Of course,
and,
of course.
And there's no, there is nothing on the horizon where we're going to get those vehicles replaced. Other vehicles that we're using are terrible. It's quite bad. It's
Are
quite
any
bad.
of these still the vehicles that were, I guess, damaged or that broke with last year's storms and they were never recovered since?
Some of those are in that count. And so for Van Cortlandt Park, that was 3 vehicles were submerged and junked. But we were hit the hardest. So it's just regular bad vehicles.
Right. And Jody, so yesterday was the preliminary budget hearing. It was right after the rally with Fair Play. So
then that means Stephanie, it's 72 hours after the hearing. So it's testimony at council.nyc.gov, right? You can submit
Mhm. Mhm.
written testimony, which you don't have 3 minutes, so you can submit a lot
You can write as
more.
much as you want.
Write as much, make sure you bullet pointed and make it easy to read,
Yeah.
because they
So
skim.
they do. But if you go to New Yorkers for Parks website, they have bullet points of what we're asking for in the Playfair Coalition.
And yeah, I'll send that around to the committee as well, just in case they want to submit written testimony as well. I'm gonna draft something up and send it over as well. And yeah. Any other questions for Enzo? Go ahead, Rob.
I actually just want to thank Enzo for showing up on this weekend to help us clean Ewan Park. He did really heavy lifting. We got a ton of garbage out of Ewan Park behind the construction wall there and behind the tennis
And
courts.
it's
And
all,
it looks,
all out of there, right? It's not there anymore.
yeah, they got
Oh.
they came the next day and took it all away. So not the branches, but all the garbage away. It looks great. So thank you.
Yeah, that was a lot of work, but
Yeah.
I could sleep well now.
It's true. It's a feeling of accomplishment.
Thanks, Rob.
Bye.
Thank you.
All right. Enzo, anything at last thoughts?
No, I'm good. But again, I do hope by now, everybody in this call has my email, lmanzano@council.nyc.gov. So, you can all reach out in time. And Ramdat, thanks for the time.
Thanks, Enzo, for coming and giving us an update on where CM Eric Dinowitz stands on the budget and Parks budget. We appreciate it so much. All right. All right. Next on the agenda is chair's report. I'm not gonna touch the press conference because Enzo just went over that. That was on part of my thing. There have been some graffiti issues in Bruss Park, and I just want to thank DPR for their rapid response in getting that cleaned. Also, the stewards of Bruss Park has been really good at sending us the ticket number and images so I can follow up and make sure the signs or the fence or benches or the chess tables are power washed in a timely manner. So just thanks Parks for that. There was an issue though with a Parks vehicle like driving on the lawn in Bruss Park, and that has been that's been addressed by Joe, and Joe will help stewards of Bruss Park reseed that area of the lawn that the tire has dug up the lawn. And there is the Van Cortlandt Park Water Summit meeting number 2 on March, that's next week, right, Stephanie? From 2 to 3:30 p.m. If you need that link, the Zoom link, and if you want to join, just let me know. And
Which day is that?
It is, I have to check my calendar. Bob, do you have
March 30th?
March 30th, yep. Bob, do you have a question?
Yeah, I do, Ramdat. The graffiti in Bruss Park, was this similar to the graffiti that was in Spuyten Duyvil Playground and Seton?
This was just regular graffiti.
Okay.
There was no racist or anti-Semitic undertones or any, any anti-Semitic or racist language on it was just regular like tagging. But it's been
purple?
clean.
Was it purple?
I have to check back the pictures.
There's Joan 5 is very prolific. SEI MCV, which is Michael Breen, who's 40 now. He's back tagging. So I've been kind of trying to track some of it. And I think graffiti at nypd.org, they were compiling, they used to have a physical book, but now I think they're compiling digital photos of graffiti. So that might be something, because if they're hanging out in the parks, they will make the rounds.
All right, so yeah, I'll definitely start submitting those to that group to that website. As you know, there is a graffiti issue. I live in Kingsbridge, and graffiti, there's a lot of graffiti issues down here. And it's also making its way into the parks as well, which is unfortunate. So if you're seeing the graffiti, just put in a 311 request again and send me the ticket number. I can I can make follow up with the board office and make sure those are taken care of in a timely manner. And we're
On
coming
that
up.
one quick
Oh, go
question,
ahead,
the water working group, it was March 30th, you said at 2?
Yep, from 2 to 3:30 p.m. I
Yeah.
will send over the Zoom link to everyone at the end of this.
Okay, great. Thank you.
No worries.
And I'll also,
And-
my job box in Fort Independence got tagged with graffiti, so I'll send a picture to Jody so she can identify them.
Yeah, I don't know who they are yet, but that kid, he's not a kid, Michael Breen, when he was 14 and 15, I called his mom up because I was like, I found out who he was. So I still know where his mom lives.
Excellent. I know where this person's mom lives too.
But Ramdad, but be glad, because if there wasn't graffiti in parks in the 90s, Friends of Spite and Dival never would have started, because that's part of how we got involved with parks, because we were cleaning up garbage and graffiti, and Ewan Park had horrible garbage and horrible graffiti. Like every night they were tagging the stone walls and having keg parties and mugging people down the stairs. So you just have to be diligent, because if you leave it up, then they're like, great spot.
Mhm.
Yeah,
No,
that
yeah.
was actually part of the cleanup on this Saturday. So I'll send you pictures of the before the graffiti, and they painted over, at least on those walls.
That's great. I had actually saw some 2 weeks ago, and I asked somebody who was talking to me to send the 311 in, and he did. So I'm trying to get people to know that you can report it and make a record of it.
Is there any remediation other than painting over it? Because I mean, there's the reservoir is tagged in a couple of spots, and I've been hesitant to report it just because there would just be more paint.
It depends. It can be power washed or painted or painted. Yeah.
One thing we did, Ramdat, was we had the underpass on Kapok Street. When they redid that, this was in the 90s. I don't know if anyone still does this. We had it sprayed with a wax coating,
Okay.
so that
can ask
the
about that.
graffiti didn't get into the pores of the brick, and then it was easy to power wash it because it just would melt the wax off.
Mhm.
I don't know what the current technology is, but there's got to be some like non-stick coating, so you don't have to spray paint it all the time.
Yeah.
There is a coating, and I can find out what that's called. Unfortunately, we can't really afford to do it everywhere in the park, but it's something that we had put on the Grand Central stones, and it worked for a long time, but it has to be recoated constantly. So so I can find out what that's called if you want.
Is that
Thanks
the
for
kind
that.
of thing, stuff where like a volunteer group could apply it, or does it need like skills?
I don't think it needs skills, but I can find out. The Parks Department's Arts and Antiquities Department is the one who kind of oversees it, but I don't think that it needs any special skills. It might, I mean, at most maybe a mask, but hey, we all have those.
Right, got a couple of those.
But by the way, there was a story on NPR today about the Stones.
Mm.
I believe you said, "Oh, really?" But you were muted.
Really? I was muted. What?
We saw your
Yes.
face. We knew what you said.
Oh, wow. And Councilman Dinowitz, I don't know if you heard him on Brian Lehrer, but he last week he said that he had one thing that he was allowed to brag about, and he bragged about Van Cortlandt Park.
That's
Nice.
awesome.
Great. That's pretty great.
And a few more things before we get into like the meat of this meeting. Bob Fanuzzi and I are in the works of planning another joint meeting on daylighting between environment and sanitation and our committee. We are thinking either May or June, just to, we're gonna start drafting up some follow-up questions and sending it out over, and hopefully May or June would be, give both DEP and DPR enough time to, have their plans and answers to our questions and come back and present to both committees, and then opening it up to the entire community as well. And three more things actually. Joe met with stewards at Brush Park. It was a very successful meeting. Unfortunately, I had to work, so I couldn't be there. But one thing that came out of that meeting in Brush Park was, they'll try to be more coordination between the stewards at Brush Park and Parks, the agency as well, Joe and Dan, which is good. And the last thing is Half Moon Overlook. I feel like we've been addressing this since the end of time, since the beginning of time.
It's the beginning of time.
Yeah, I think it's a full moon overlook by now. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so Kira sent a letter on behalf of the board expressing to the commissioner and Parks Department to kind of like stop dragging their feet in a way. I can send over that letter to the committee as well, so that way you have it. And the issue, well, Commissioner Iris now sent a package to the legal department, and it's in their hands now. And the update that I got from the board office was they're working on it, but also essentially they need to catch him in the act. So if any of us or anybody from the community happens to see Victor in Half Moon Overlook, they recommend, calling the office, the main desk of the PEP, and then they will respond accordingly. So they need to catch him in the act in order to, be able to kind of address it. I'm not a lawyer, so I need to follow up with Kira on a separate call to figure out what are the other next steps as well. So the number is 646-613-1200. And one last thing, Rob, two more things. This is for stewards of UN Park. Joe is gonna check on the fence for UN Park. And also I am in the process of making sure that the signs are replaced by the basketball court. And I believe the entrance, I forgot what avenue, all the way up, yeah. I see that it's has a lot of graffiti tags. It's layered with white spray paint. So I'm in the process of to see if that can be replaced as well. All right, a lot of hands. And I believe this is all for Half Moon Overlook. So we'll go with Leona, David, and then Jody.
Well, just first of all, is Victor the homeless man that sleeps there sometimes?
No, that's Carlos.
Oh, okay. Never mind then. I just wanted to know who it was.
The gentleman who's bent over with the white hair, that's Carlos. The other Hispanic guy, I think his name is Juan or Luis.
David?
Yes, quickly, Stephanie, I just sent you the article. About the overlook, for what it's worth, Parks did put up a bright red, if small, sign that says "Do not enter" right by that gate. So more needs to be done, but at least they did that much, which would clearly identify that Victor would be in violation, and anybody else should be aware that they are not to go over.
Okay. I haven't had a chance to go over there yet, so I thank you for letting me know that.
I just rode by yesterday.
Yeah,
Jody?
I have a picture of the day it went up. So that is for legal. They had to make it clear that he was trespassing because the narrative has been oh, he's providing access to a public park. And the other thing is it's not just for Half Moon. There are numerous trails appearing on the very steep slopes of Henry Hudson Park that are connecting the path that's up at the top of the slope behind the ball fields down to Palisade Avenue or Independence Avenue. People are now telling me that they saw the path, so they're letting their dogs run up there. I've seen people trying to climb up there. They're super steep, really dangerous. And then someone just emailed me, called me the other night to say that it looks like there was a lot of material removed from the forest edge of Seton and Wallenberg Park on 232nd Street. She said it looks like empty, like somebody's making a clearing there. And before I knew about Victor, I had reported to Rosemary that somebody had made trails in behind the ball courts, the tennis courts in Seton, and they're really packed down. So maybe that they're extending it. And Christy from Natural Resources said that that was not them. So we're gonna send her photos and drop some pins on Google Maps to let her see that. The reality is if he's at a half moon, he's obsessive, so he will continue. Someone also reported that they noticed similar activity on the edge of Wallenberg, the northern edge at Palisade Avenue, where there was plants cleared and giant piles of branches and debris piled up. And that's not parks either. So, you know, the longer somebody is allowed to do these things, everybody thinks it's okay. Also, the Attorney General's office said that he's not registered with the Charities Bureau, but they don't have the ability to investigate. So they will reach out and ask him to register. It's a lot like DOB, Ramdat. You know, if Parks has to DOB has to catch the violation because they have to testify and say, I took the picture, I saw the person. So PEP has to do the same thing. They have to catch them and say, I saw them, I took the picture. So I have a bunch of people looking out. But since you said the number, so I can share that number widely.
Yes, you can.
Okay,
Do
great.
you want me to say it again? Or do you?
No, I have it. I have
Okay.
it.
And David?
Yeah, just one thing. Jody alluded to it, that there is a sort of a romantic notion of what Victor is doing, you know, to make parks more accessible and pretty and et cetera, et cetera. And the thing that he doesn't understand, and I think that we need to get the word out through our various contacts, is that besides what he's doing being illegal and dangerous, you know, we have an NRG group, the Natural Resources Group, that are professionals that know what are invasive species and what grows properly and what's dangerous to keep, and slopes and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And while in theory, Victor's efforts may be well-intentioned, I think they're mostly egocentric. And I think that we really need to spread the word however we can that this is really bad, and that he's not just some, you know, I don't know, good Samaritan. He may have deluded himself into that, but I've got a lot more faith in DPR and NRG than this lone wolf.
Yeah. All right, Deb, last point, and then, you know, I want to move on.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I wonder if it would be helpful. I mean, I know the Parks Department doesn't like to have extra signage, and I think that's smart. But that a lot of folks don't know what a Forever Wild area is, and they don't know which parks are Forever Wild. And I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't think that there's any, like, just like some educational piece or something where you got a QR code. Jody's shaking her head. Is that because you agree, or it's because it's already there?
So there is a Forever Wild brochure. I've already had a conversation with Natural Resources about, it doesn't really say enough. So they have agreed to help me make a Friends of Spite and Dival handout about Forever Wild. And
Maybe just like a plaque, like a little sign, like yay big,
I
that just
happen to
says,
have a laminator. So
you know, something with a squirrel and a, you know, like a native tree, and it just says Forever Wild and like what it is, and like a QR code to learn more. But actually, like where it says Wallenberg Forest and where it says Half Moon Overlook, Because I think otherwise it does look scrappily, and people don't understand that that scrapple is nature, and nature is good, you know?
That's the handout that we're working on, to explain
Yeah.
to people, why does this look this way and what can they do? Victor did decline stewardship training with natural resources. So, you know, he wasn't out in Riverdale Park the times that I've been to learn how to do it. So, you know, there are opportunities if he wanted to be part of the system, but he does not.
That's a really interesting idea. If Parks would just add a sentence to their sign saying, this has been designated a protection under the Forever Wild state laws. Please check out this QR code for details. Or something like that, where people are made aware and they can easily find out what that really means.
All right, Stephanie, last thing, and then I do want to move on because I know that will be the next item will actually take most of the time. And I
Okay.
want to be respectful of people's.
So sure. So signage in parks is very, very challenging to get new signs made. So I'm going to check and see if there's actually an existing Forever Wild sign in the sign catalog. So if that exists, I will let you all know. And that's just something that would be ordered and installed. If it doesn't exist, there's a sign committee at parks, and I will get the ball rolling to get Forever Wild signage going, because I have Forever Wild lots and lots of acreage in my park, and we'll see if we can all benefit.
Here, here.
That'd be amazing, yeah.
That'd be
Thank
really
you so
great.
much.
One sign fits all.
All right, so that concludes my chair report. Next thing is budget items. What I did was I sent you all just like a document with, you know, some of the reason why it took so long for me to send it to you was that there were some things that, you know, that were minor that I think parks could have handled without it being an expense budget or a capital budget. So this was taking a little bit long for me to get those responses from like Joe and Dan. So that's why I do apologize for the fact that this document came out a little late. It was just taking me a while to get some answers to, you know, some things such as like the dog fence, the dog run fence in Ewan Park, or, you know, so on and so forth. Things that are easily fixed, or, you know, that just require simple maintenance, not a whole new project. So I just want to say like how I apologize for the lateness on this. And do you all want me to share my screen so y'all can see it? Perfect. All right. Where is that document? Nope. Y'all can see it, right? Amazing.
I can see your email. Is that what you mean to show? I don't see the document.
No?
Nope, I see an email from you to Joe.
Oh, hold up.
This is how scandals get started, Ramdot.
I know. I haven't taught on Zoom in a year, and this is what I get. I forgot how to share my screen. There we go.
There we go.
Second time's a charm. All right. So.
But try to go into, well, expand it. It's very hard to read.
Let me expand this.
The lower right, you've got that slider.
Whoops, too far.
That works.
Sorry, I feel like I'm technologically challenged today, which is kind of funny. All right, so what we did was Bob actually helped me with this as well. He caught that I missed a few things, and then I, you know, redid it. So I looked at the OMB report for, you know, 23, and looked at everything that was not funded, or, you know, the famous please reach out to your council member for further assistance, that, phrasing. And kind of put some of that on here, but also put in some of the new requests that we got from some of the parks groups that, weren't necessarily easy to fix with just a communication with Joe or Dan. So the first one is Bailey Playground. Then we have the construction restroom for Van Cortlandt Park at Broadway and West 251st. We have the improved access, the wrought iron boundary fence and exterior red brick stairway into the Van Cortlandt mansion. Washington Walks, including new benches, replacing the temporary fence and wrought iron fence, and repairing the adjacent sidewalk. Then Old Fort 4, we have the playground, basketball courts, benches, Van Cortlandt Stadium. We have the green infrastructure project at Spy and Dival Shorefront Park that Jody mentioned. Oh, I think I did that one double. Sorry. I recopied that one twice. I apologize. Then we have a green infrastructure project by the Henry Hudson Parkway. And I think we have
the Riverdale Park. Sorry.
Yeah, this is Riverdale Park. Sorry, there's Supply and Dival and Riverdale Park. ADA accessibility of the dog run in Fort Independence. And then last but not least, Fort 4 was already listed. So those are some of the, I think the capital ones that came out. Rob, I left off the dog run of UN Park because I am working on that with Joe to see if like a simple maintenance can handle that instead of just
Yeah, they did a simple fix already, so it may be fixed. As far as they're concerned, it works. So
yeah. Jody, go ahead.
I had also submitted restoration and rehabilitation of Forever Wild Shorefront Park.
Oh, did I miss that one? I'm sorry.
That's to undo what Victor did plus fix what's the bridge construction has done.
Jody, do you mind reading that one out loud again for me if you have it?
Hold on, let me turn off.
And I'm gonna hit to Enzo really quickly, okay?
Sure.
Go ahead, Enzo.
Yeah, so just I want to comment on the Bailey playground one.
Mm-hmm.
But before, in terms of the playground itself in Tibbet's Tail, actually our office and we work with this organization called ACE who does cleanup. We actually have been getting the sidewalk from 234th to 238th cleaned every Friday. If I'm not sure if you noticed that, but every Friday our crews are out there, so they've been doing great work. But in regards to the playground itself in Tibbet's Tail, this is also something our office has been very interested in working on, including the Office of Assemblyman Dinowitz. And what we actually did it might have been sometime last year or early this year, we did a walkthrough with Councilmember Pierina Sanchez along that strip, kind of just, talking about what we envision here. And I guess what's kind of been going on, in regards to the playground and in regards to Tibbet Tail, the issue about the fence, why it's closed, and all that. And so we did have an initial meeting with Parks, letting them know that, we're interested in hopefully working together, including, and also with the Office of Pierina Sanchez, doing something, providing capital money to eventually, fix up this whole place. We did that while Iris Rodriguez was the borough commissioner. And, since then she's become the first deputy. And I guess because of the change in administration, we haven't been able to successfully plan a community visioning session with Parks and the Office of Assemblyman Dinowitz and the Office of Councilmember Pierina Sanchez. But that's just something we're really trying to get done. But I guess, like I said, since the change of administration, they're still figuring out a couple of things in the borough, department But so just, look for, keep an eye out for that, once we have that community visiting session for the playground and Tibbetts Tail, hopefully in the near future.
Go ahead, Doug.
Oh, I just wanted to add for Enzo, because I don't know if it's on your radar. I'm not sure which meetings, which committees you go to, but that for ENS and part of the Deegan project that the TNT committees have been focusing on, that Bailey Playground might be a good place for water catchment. Also, possibly like some of the experimental, like they've been doing like basketball courts that essentially can catch water in terms of when there's like a real high stormwater overflow. And so it may be a way to get additional money to make repairs and stuff to the park. We know
Cool.
it's got flooding, so.
Right, that's helpful to know. And I do know our office is meeting with BCEQ. Did I say it right? BCEQ?
Yep.
Yeah, where we have a meeting with them, I think sometime next week. I hope they bring that up.
Yeah, that corner is actually one of the outfalls that come down from Kingsbridge Heights. So there's a lot of water that comes down there. So it would be a great feature to catch water during high storms.
Cool. Yeah, no, I'm sure, Eric will definitely be interested in learning more about that. So great.
Cool.
I do see Bob's hand is up.
Yeah, thanks, Ramdot. Yeah, with regard to Bailey, the Bailey Playground, one of the significant problems with that playground is that the storm drains don't work properly in that playground. So apropos of what Deb just said, this is, this playground is an opportunity to address some of the stormwater runoff that comes down from Kingsbridge Heights. And as we know from last year, winds up down on the Deegan, the lowest point in the community. I don't know that the storm drains in the Bailey Playground by themselves would have averted any of that problem. I doubt it. But the fact that they don't work properly only exacerbates the problem. So, and that's why, excuse me, that's why in this request, aside from the fact that the playground is all blacktop and looks totally uninviting, we have always requested that the storm drains be repaired. So, that's an important part of this whole project.
If I may, so there's a couple of things that are going on in Van Cortlandt Park that are green infrastructure projects. And these green infrastructure projects are like these sort of small kind of retrofits, if you will, that are kind of a combined effort of Parks and DEP. In fact, they're managed by someone at Parks who is technically funded by DEP, but she sits in a Parks office. So fascinating person. She is great, and she is overseeing a couple of things that are going to happen in Van Cortlandt Park, one of which is the tennis courts at Indian Field are going to get one such retrofit, which is great. So I asked her specifically about Bailey Playground because we had been talking about it at one of our many Tibbetts Brook meetings. And she said that it is not a good candidate for a retrofit because there's so much work that has to be done there. It has to be a full-blown redo of that playground. So it's been assessed, and it's beyond like one of these smaller retrofit projects. So that is from DPR, DEP, from their point of view. So it's something that would need a bigger budget because it would have to be a complete redo.
Interesting. All right, thanks, Stephanie. And I added the last one, Jody. Sorry, I missed that one. Rehab and restoration of natural areas, trails, wetlands, and aquatic features by Indival Shorefront Park. All right, so these are the capital. David, how many things are we allowed from each committee?
How high is high? there is no formal rule other than the borough president's office tells us that we basically, as a community board, all committees cannot submit more than 30 capital and I think 25 expense. And I've gotten this whispered in my ear several times. Anything after the first 5 don't count. So, but that the overall prioritization for the community board of parks and TNT and ENS, et cetera, that's part of the discussion that will happen in exec and then voted on by the board later on in May. But that strongly suggests that you're hard pressed to submit more than 4 or 5 each, capital and expense. You know, I have no hard rule, but realistically, you're probably not going to get anywhere with beyond that. Bob, do you have any comment on that or something else?
No, my comment is on something else, David, one of the capital projects.
Okay, well, I'm sorry. I'm done anyhow. So, Ramdad, how do you want to proceed?
We'll go with Bob and then Jody.
So Ramdad, you already have Shorefront Park on here. Yeah, hold on, right? No, go back. Yeah, go back right there.
Yep.
Okay. You see green infrastructure project to divert, absorb and clean stormwater, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
That's the Henry Hudson Bridge. That's Spuyten Duyvil Shorefront Park.
Mm-hmm.
So you have it on here already. So
Yes.
if you want to add something more about repairing the trails and all that, it should go in there as a single item all
Okay.
around Shorefront Park. But the other thing I would say is that the Henry Hudson Bridge Rehabilitation Project is ongoing. So I don't think this is going to get funded until that reconstruction project is over. God knows when that's going to be. But, they're still down there doing that work. So, but in any case, the most important part of this is, put it all in one item
Okay.
and make sure it's all aggregated into a single request.
Jody, you had your hand up.
Yeah, Bob, I broke it out into 2 things because green infrastructure is kind of a tricky thing that I wasn't sure that parks would go for it. But that's, and I did submit it to them to review and they said they didn't have a problem with it. But if you think putting it together in one, that's fine. They're replacing something that has been in there for 20 years. So, but my comment is for what David said. I think that over the years, one of the things that has been really good about the budget process is that sometimes this is how the other members of the executive committee see the breadth of what the other committees are doing. And then, you can fight it out and weed it out together. But I've always known that each committee makes a very long list and it's a way of communicating that these are priorities to the community. And then you can pick and choose for what you're going to submit to the borough president or, the city. But I think it's very educational to see the whole list.
I understand what you're saying, but our experience has been with the executive committee that just having 50 or 60 things submitted to a list that will not get past 30, it doesn't end up being educational. It ends up being getting the process bogged down. I appreciate what you're saying. I think there's value in alerting the executive committee, maybe the other committees, of other things that are of interest. But if a committee submits 15 items for us to consider in our top 30, it doesn't seem likely that 13, 14, and 15 are going to get a lot of play or discussion or thought. when we're trying to come up with that list of 30 from 10 committees.
Yeah, the reality is if any one of these gets funded, that's a miracle, because as Ramdad
Yes.
alluded to, and we talked at the last meeting, the answer will be ask your city council member to fund it. And the sanitation hearing today, that was the theme repeated by council member after council member, saying that like things should be baselined. We shouldn't have to be funding basic services, because they were complaining that they had to fund extra wastebasket pickups. So that I was just speaking to what we discussed last time about how this is all going to be. Tell your council member to fund it. And it's a good, legit way to say we need more baseline money for parks. So that was just what I was trying to address, the idea that the system is broken, and this is one way to point it out, because look at all this stuff that needs to be fixed. You know?
All right, Bob, I see your hand up.
Yeah, this is a philosophical issue. Do you want to include everything that you think really needs to be done, knowing full well that, only a certain number of the items are actually going to make the community board's own list for submission to OMB? Or do you say, no, don't do that, it's pointless, because, we're going to cut it off at a certain point? As Jody just said, the answer on all these items ultimately is going to be, the Parks Department approves of the project, but there's no funding for it. So talk to your council member. I'm of the philosophy that might as well go into the executive committee and the board with our full list. We know that the, bottom 2, 3, 4 items are not going to make the final cut. But I just think it's a good practice for everybody in the community board to be aware of the breadth of the parks projects that do need attention, that they're just not getting. But again, as I say, this is a philosophical argument. You can argue both sides of this question. In the end, the community board will come up with its final list. The top 5 items or whatever will make it. The other ones won't. But I think it's a good discussion to have. And, in the end, we go back to our councilman for the money anyway. So that's all I had to add.
All right, do we want to start ranking these on how we feel they should show up so for me personally, I would like to see Bailey Playground still be one of the main top ranked capital wise, even though I know it's gonna take probably $60 trillion to redo the entire playground. And I don't, Deb, sorry, you were gonna say something?
Oh, yes, I agree that I think Bailey Playground should stay number 1. And then I was just looking, I was trying, should we take into consideration last year's rank, or does it really not, whether we want to continue in this order or whether we want to bump some things up? That might be a way of narrowing in the discussion. Is number 2 still Broadway and West 251st, or does somebody want to propose something, go ahead of it?
David?
Yeah, I just wanted to make comment that for us to keep in mind a couple of factors. In terms of the whole community district equity, geographical, service, frankly, ethnic, and personally, I believe this Bailey hits on all of them, coincidentally. And another thing to keep in mind is how bad is it. And I personally think that this flooding problem, it's pretty clear that there are broken pipes underneath the pavement, which suggests a health problem. And personally, I don't think this should be part of our budget discussion. It more should fit within the realm of what Enzo's talking about. But as a statement from our community, I think we should be saying that for the various equity reasons, it should be first. Our first. And
Anyone,
we should keep that in mind.
anyone disagree that Bailey should not be our rank number one? All right, I think everyone's agreement that Bailey Paragon will be number one. Great. All right, then we get to the next one, which was, I believe, our 12th from the community board list, which was the construction of restrooms at West Broadway and West 251st Street, adjacent to the parade grounds in Van Cortlandt Park. How do we feel about that one?
Ramdad, I'd like to know Stephanie's opinion. You've got a couple of Van Cortlandt projects here. Stephanie, how do you feel about these projects?
And which one would you want to see
Right.
ranked second from this committee?
So realistically, the stadium is really, really in a state of horrible disrepair, and nothing can move forward until a new engineering study is done. And that, I have an estimate, is going to be anywhere from $600,000 to $1 million just to do the study. So I think it would be really important to do that. But I do know that that bathroom is also really needed on that side of the parade ground. So that's, my top two.
And if
Stephanie,
you
what
had
about
to
the,
rank them, which
what-
one would you put first? Sorry, we're putting you on the spot. Sorry, Stephanie.
Me personally, the stadium, but I don't know. Bob might differ on that.
there's also the wrought iron fence around the mansion. I think that was still on here, right? Yeah,
Mhm.
that's
So it's mostly funded. There is about $600,000 actually that is still needed for that fence. So so if that is possible to put in there somewhere.
I'm sorry, Stephanie, I didn't get, where do I put that?
So you have, actually, your cursor was right there. Yeah, rehabilitate the wrought iron boundary fence. So it was included in this last year's budget. And so I think $2 million or $2.1 million was already in the budget, but it's going to fall short. So just a little bit more is needed.
Stephanie, the one thing I'm unclear about, first of all, I think it should be your decision between the restroom on West 251st and Broadway and the stadium. But I'm a little unclear about in the stadium request, restoration of its historic nature. I'm not sure I know exactly what that means, as opposed to repair leaks in restrooms. That's very clear. But what do you mean by restoration of its historic nature? The stadium's historic nature.
I did not write that, so I don't know where that came from.
This came from last year's.
yeah, Bob. I think
the
the
language directly from the request itself.
Bob, I think what it's referring to is that the stadium is on historic register, maybe the state or national historic register, as a WPA project.
Right.
Stephanie,
And
shaking
so,
your head.
yeah.
Well, no, it is a WPA project, but it's not landmarked in any way. So
Still could be
Oh,
on the
what would we
historic
be
register.
It
doing
could still
to
be on the, yeah.
what would we be doing to restore its historic nature? In other words, what exactly is the capital project? Is it reconstructing some part of the stadium, or what would that mean? That's my question.
So I think actually it's not really, I don't think we're at restoration or destruction yet. I think we really need to know what's going on, and we need an engineering study. The last time a study was done was in 2008, and the building has fallen into much, much, much more serious disrepair since then. especially after Hurricane Ida. I mean, there's rats living in there. It's really quite bad. So it's not a capital project yet. I think it is just money for the study.
All right, well, so what we should be asking for here is funding for an engineering study to determine how to restore Van Cortlandt Stadium. Is that correct?
Well, it's more like whether to restore or not, because it may actually be past the point of no return. Like it's in really bad shape.
Well, that's an intriguing question. So if you don't restore it, what do you do?
There are different things. It could be demolished entirely, which would be extremely sad. But I think that it's been ignored, and this is what happens. But there's also the possibility, maybe there's a way to preserve the facade of it so that it continues to have the same look that it's always had, but that you would remove the back end of it where the bleachers are and build something new.
I think probably though, we wouldn't want to start with that. I mean, we would want to start with a study to determine how to restore like the possibility, like the restoration of Van Cortlandt Stadium. And then if they do the study and they determine that it's $1 billion, then that's a different conversation about kind of feasible next steps, you know?
So we're
Yeah, that would be
removing the
really
historical-
sad. I played soccer at Rice Stadium in the western edge of Pelham Bay Park, and they tore down that stadium, and you can see it from the I-95. It would be I think it'd be a great loss, particularly if one were to go downstairs and look at some of the details of that WPA building. So I hope we can find a way to preserve it.
So I'm deleting the highlighted portions. Am I correct? Okay, perfect. And will this still be a capital project, or will it be something else?
It falls under capital expense. So funding for engineering study to determine if restoration of Van Cortlandt Park Stadium is feasible.
I don't know if I don't think we should say if it's feasible.
No.
I think that opens up a question that we're not
How?
ready to go to. Yeah. How to determine
How to restore Van Cortlandt Park
to
Stadium.
assess the restoration of Van Cortlandt Park Stadium.
That you got it, Deb. That's the
about-
right answer. That's the right wording.
And
No, well, again, a little tighter. Assess how to restore the stadium.
A restoration plan to assess the,
To assess,
Engineering
to
study.
develop a restoration plan.
yeah,
That's fine.
to assess and develop.
And
To
develop.
Assess and develop.
all right,
I write a lot of stuff in city language. I speak agency ease.
I only speak DOE, unfortunately.
Ramdot, can I suggest you give me a call this week so we can go over how to word these?
Yes, we will.
Okay,
Yeah,
call me when
Um,
it's convenient.
I speak
Perfect.
Disney.
All right, so are we making Van Cortlandt Park Stadium our number 2 then? Is anyone all in favor of making Van Cortlandt Park Stadium number 2?
I think we should talk about some of the other stuff to make sure.
Okay.
Just in terms of both equity, and also the number of people who use it. That's the only thing that I think that's the one, Bailey is easy because a lot of people use it. It's in bad condition. It's in an environmental justice zone. It's like, there's so many things that speak to it, and there's a real opportunity to combine it with Tibbetts Tail. These other ones like Washington's Walk is like something where like small repairs and some small additions could really make a big difference for that park. Same with Old Fort 4. Same with like going down, like, I just want to make sure that that's our number, like what's our number 2, 3, and 4, and then putting those in order or something might
Mhm.
be. I mean, I know that the Old Fork Park, I think council member Sanchez has it as one of her participatory budget items as well.
So are we removing Fort 4 then?
No, not yet. I mean, it's not funded. It would have to actually get funded.
Mm-hmm.
I'm realizing there's a bunch though for like around the reservoir too. So we'll have to-
Mm-hmm. And we also still have the Mashalou golf house.
and we have a Masha Golf House. I mean, I guess I would say personally of the ones around the reservoir, there's Fort Park and all of the work that needs to be done there. I feel like Fort Park is very similar to Bailey in that it has a lot of work or a lot of people who use it. It's a very heavily used park and it hasn't had any renovation in a long time.
Sorry, can you scroll down?
Actually, it looks like Fort Park is there twice. That's what.
Yeah,
that's what-
I just realized. Whoops.
Like-
Happens when you're using your lunch break to do budget
Oh,
items.
I feel you.
Yeah, so it's right
Ram-
here. It's right under Washington's Walk.
Yep.
And around that, I noticed that there's no number next to Shorefront Park. That was just a rewording of the retaining wall one. So I think that was that's been on for 20 years. That had a ranking.
I'll have to check the ranking on that one.
Yeah, and I appreciate the equity conversation, but I just want to add some, if we are only evaluating by number of users, natural areas will never get funded. And we're losing, we've been talking about climate change. If we don't protect the natural areas, and even Tibbetts Tail, if that becomes an extension of the playground, they're losing a forest fragment that can absorb water. So, I definitely think the Bailey, definitely, that's been on there for a while. So, some of those considerations, I just would request that some of the natural area parks that don't get heavily used, but perform ecological functions and have trees that help absorb carbon dioxide and soil that absorbs water be factored in as important as well.
Yeah, no, that was actually going to be my other thing to suggest, was that like in terms of balance for the list, that like something to address stormwater and just climate change, the stadium, which is suffering under climate change and is only going to get worse, and then like getting like Fort Park kind of higher on the list. Like that would kind of fill out my top 4, I think.
Stephanie, did you say between the 2 projects in Van Cortlandt, the engineering study for the stadium and the restroom at 251st, you think the engineering study for the stadium should rank higher?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, the stadium was 22 last time. And where's the restrooms? The restrooms was 12. This is from the entire board.
Right.
So,
Well, so are we going to rank the engineering study for the stadium number 2? Or do we want to go with the Fort 4 playground as number 2?
all right, I guess we should do a vote, I guess. All right. All in favor of ranking the Van Cortlandt Park Stadium as our number 2, raise your hand. All right. So Jody, Wait,
I just wanted to suggest something that might help speed it up when I've had to rank like, 50 community gardens. What I just did was started with the top of the list and, okay, this is one, this is two, okay, the third one, do you rank that higher or lower than what's above? And maybe
Okay.
that might be easier to just keep pulling them up and inserting them in the order. Is this more important or less important than the ones above it? Then rather than being like, what's 3, what's 4? That's just that was just a way that I quickly.
which was the other one? That was Old Fort 4, right? Am I correct?
It was Old Fort 4, it was the Shorefront Park, and it was the stadium. And then I would go Washington's Walk after that, but those are my. I like the dog run, but this is the first year for the dog run, so.
Remove this one, bring this back down. It's a good thing I taught on Zoom. All right, so we did Bailey. So these are the top few, I guess. There's the Van Cortlandt Park Stadium, Spine Devil Shorefront Park, Washington Walks, and Old Fort 4.
Right, so I think what Jody was saying was now we'd say, okay, we've got the stadium, would we put the Spite Dival Shorefront Park above it? Or is that the right order?
All right.
And then if we're good with that order, then we would go down to Washington's Walk and say, okay, would we put Washington's Walk above the Spite Dival Shorefront Park? Or above the Van Cortlandt Park Stadium, and then kind of work our way down that way.
Yeah, so
It was just,
we,
it was just a suggestion. You don't have to follow it. I was just.
I like it. It makes it move things a little bit quicker.
Well, I'm not clear that we decided that the stadium, the engineering study in the stadium was number 2. Did we in fact decide that as opposed to the renovation of Old Fort 4 Park?
And I think the idea is that next we would say, okay, the Spite and Dival Shorefront Park, do we put that above the stadium? And yes or no? And then we would go next down to Washington's Walk and say, do we put that above the 2?
Okay, okay, all right, now I understand. Okay, thanks, Deb.
So
Yeah,
are we comfortable keeping Van Cortlandt Park Stadium here, or should we move one of the other?
That's what we're saying right now is like, so like Spite and Dival Shorefront Park, doing the green infrastructure, does anybody actually want to move that ahead of the stadium? Is there anybody that would like to speak to putting that ahead of the stadium? Okay, so then it seems like that's okay. So next, Washington's Walk. Does anybody want to speak to having that be on top of the stadium? More important than the stadium?
And last but not least.
Last but not least, Old Fort 4. I would like to propose that maybe it would be, for me at least, Bailey Playground, Old Fort 4, and then the stadium as an order.
So moved.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I agree with that, Deb.
Rob, what thoughts? Old Fort.
Yeah, I would go along with that,
Okay.
with that list. ranking.
So that means, and are we putting the stadium before Spite and Dival?
Right, then the stadium stays just, it just is now below, one down from Fort 4. You gotta insert a.
Yep.
So you're just taking the next one and figuring out where does it fit in with the list we already have,
Exactly.
All right.
like, is it gonna push something down?
Yeah,
Or not.
Washington Walks.
So Washington's Walk, does anybody, like, I'm comfortable with Washington's Walk being below Spite and Dival Shorefront Park because there's a lot of drainage issues that could be really addressed by actually spending some money on the Spite and Dival Shorefront Park.
Anyone against having Spite and Dival ahead of Washington Walk? All right, I'm moving this one down. All right, so as it stands right now, Bailey Playground, Old Fort 4, Van Cortlandt Park Stadium, Spine Dival, Washington's Walk. All right, we still have, and now we get to the restrooms.
Mhm.
And we have,
The boundary fence, it needs a little bit more funding.
mhm,
And then,
we have
River-
the Riverdale Park, ADA accessibility at Fort Independence, and then the Mosholu Golf House.
Ramdot, I want to move the restroom at Broadway and 251st Street higher on the list.
So,
You know, here's my argument. The parade grounds are heavily used. There's one there's one restroom at the south end of the parade ground, but the parade ground goes for the equivalent of about 8 or 9 blocks. And especially during the cross-country season, in the fall and the spring, when there are big meets, the Parks Department has to rent porta potties all the way up along Broadway. You know, putting in that restroom wouldn't eliminate the porta potties, but it would cut down on the number of them, and it would provide an amenity for the soccer players, the cricket players, you know, who are there on the weekends. We really do need another set of restrooms down at the parade grounds. So I would like to see that item go up higher on the list.
so Bob, where would you want to see that one go before?
Let's see, what do we have?
We have
For
the
me,
second one.
it would have to be around number 4. You know, Bailey, then Fort 4, the stadium. It's going to be either 4 or 5. I mean, depending on how passionate people are about Spite and Dival, but I would put it ahead of Spite and Dival. I really would. I would make it number 4.
Leona?
Yeah, I just wanted to say I run cross country for Bronx Science. We have a bit of a rivalry with RKA. But during my season, we never even got the porta potties. So like I'm a huge fan of more bathrooms at RKA. The lines at the meets were a nightmare, and we did not get the porta potties. So yeah.
So anyone in favor, who's in favor of moving the restrooms before Spy and Dival? Rob, Bob.
wait, what was the answer? What's the question?
Oh, sorry. It's been a long day. So Bob is proposing to move the restrooms
To under the
in
stadium?
in front of
Yes.
Spy and Dival, before Spy and Dival Shorefront Park.
Yes.
So it'll be right under the stadium. So the order will be stadium, bathrooms, then green infrastructure project. That's the order that Bob is proposing.
Right.
Ramdot, can you do me a favor?
Yeah.
Each of these, Bailey, Old Fort 4, Stadium, and Spite and Dival Shorefront, just bold and underscore them, so we know what the subject name is.
Oh,
Because
yeah,
we're bouncing
sorry.
back and forth, it's hard to follow. Yeah, like
Sorry.
that, just bold and underscore it.
My bad. I apologize.
Okay. Now it's easier to follow.
Perfect. And then restroom.
I think you
Alright.
wanted to bold and underline Van Cortlandt Park. Because these are the locations, right?
Yeah. Thanks, Deb.
I mean, I know when you gotta go, you gotta go. You want a bold and underlined restroom, but
All right,
Thank you, that's
so
helpful.
perfect. So I'm gonna ask the question again. All in favor of moving the restroom before Spine Devil Shorefront Park? So we have Rob, we have Bob in favor. Deb, David?
I'm not opposed to it. It would make it, would that make Spite and Diavola Shorefront Park number 5?
Yes, it will.
Yes.
Okay. So-
David?
I'm not opposed.
And that means Spy and Dival comes before Washington's Walk. Oh. All right, so orders as is so far. Bailey Playground, Old Fort 4 Park, Van Cortlandt Park Stadium, Rest Room at Van Cortlandt Park, Spy and Dival Shorefront Park, Washington's Walk. Are we okay with that order? All in favor of that order so far?
Mhm.
Okay, seems like we have an agreement. All right, next we have 4 more actually. We have Riverdale Park. Let me just bold that. This is Van Cortlandt Park.
Wrought iron boundary fence. Just
Thank
highlight that. Yeah.
And then Fort Independence Park,
Mhm.
and then Marshall Golf Course.
Well, on the wrought iron fence, you have to have Van Cortlandt in there somewhere.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Van Cortlandt
Oh,
Park.
Bob, we'll work on that kind of language later. I'll work with Ramdad on that. I just wanted him to bold it so we know what we're talking about.
Yeah, so that way you're not confused.
There's only one wrought iron fence.
Well,
Right.
no, actually that look right up above it.
Right, there's a wrought iron fence in Washington's Walk as well.
Yeah, I added VCP. I'll remember.
Okay,
Okay.
Yeah.
that's all we need.
I added
Yeah, I think Bob's just calling out that we've been underlining and bolding the park name. Is,
Oh,
so
Mhm.
this is the only one where we
Correct.
did the wrought iron boundary fence.
I know, Stephanie, we have to rework the language of this one. Right? We need to add, to allocate.
Partially funded, the committee is something like around the committee is aware that this priority is partially funded. Or acknowledges.
Or maybe say something like fund the, Stephanie, you said it early, you described it perfectly.
What did I
What the-
say?
No, I was like, that was good. I didn't write it down. You said something about, it was partially funded and it needs additional funds.
Right, it's like the committee acknowledges this project is partially funded.
And is requesting additional funds to
complete.
complete.
Thanks, Deb.
Teamwork.
Renovation, renovation is the right word, isn't it, Stephanie?
I think renovation or restoration, either way.
Right,
Restoration.
Probably restoration.
I'll change it. Whoops, can't spell today. All right. And are we keeping the exterior red brick?
Yeah, right, and then you just have an extra return after brick to stairway. It should just be red brick stairway to the mansion. There you go.
there you go.
Perfect, amazing. All
And
right,
then wrought iron boundary needs to be not bolded or underlined. And that
yeah,
is
we're gonna
perfect.
change that. We wanted, David said to just bold it,
Mhm.
underline it, so that way it sticks out. That way we know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
You know, as we're going through the list. Actually, let me bring up the golf house. And I'll restructure this document before David and I talk anyway. All right, so as we have it so far, it's wrought iron boundary in Van Cortlandt Park, Riverdale Park, Fort Independence Park, and Marshall Golf House. Does anyone want to move any of the, does anyone
Can you
move Riverdale
scroll?
Park?
Can you scroll up so we can see? Okay.
I would like it, I'm sorry, did I interrupt you, Deb?
I hope you're good, Dave.
Okay, I don't understand, the, green infrastructure project at the top of that new page.
Mhm.
And what the ADA element is of Fort Independence Dog Run. I don't understand them at all.
Okay,
Okay,
so
I'll
I'm
I'll
gonna direct
explain.
Jody to
Riverdale
the
one?
Riverdale
Yeah.
Park, and then after Deb, I'll have you do the Fort Independence Park, okay?
Mhm.
Jody,
Okay,
you wanna
and
take
then-
Riverdale Park?
Yes, perfect timing because I have to jump in like 5 minutes. So it's been brought to my attention that there is a lot of overflow of runoff from development, and it is flooding properties, and it can be properly directed into Alderbrook, which runs through a good portion of the estate area, then comes down, crosses Palisade, and goes directly into the Hudson River through Riverdale Park. There was a big restoration at the bottom of that, but they didn't go further up. It's been eroded out. There's boulders. So some of the neighbors up there had complained about it, and I suggested I could put it in as a capital project. And they were like, oh, none of that ever really gets funded. So I thought it was a opportunity to deal with some of the water. And also, it's a brook that never was covered. It's already daylighted. It should be restored, like we're talking about creating Tibbetts Brook.
All right. Yeah, well, I live up there, almost. And one, I don't see where the Henry Hudson Parkway element comes in, or the apartment buildings. And even if it did, I think this is an ENS project.
But
While it does, the Elderbrook does run along Spalding Avenue and then run through the Riverdale Park to go down to the river, to the Hudson. I don't think we're talking about that element at all. I think it's the upper portion, which would be an ENS issue, and maybe a TNT issue in terms of runoff from the Henry Hudson Parkway and West 246th Street coming
Well,
across.
it's both. I didn't want to be greedy and put it in two committees. So it's both. There's two sections to it. The part that goes through the park needs to be rehabilitated. But you can't do that if you're, I don't know if parks can do that if it's not addressing the upper piece of it as well. So I was just trying to make sure that we were thinking about the flooding and diverting stormwater off the streets from all the development into the things that we have that exist.
What development? There hasn't been development there in 30 years.
No, there was a parking lot. A parking lot was put in up there that.
At the Riverdale Country School.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, okay.
Was this brought to ENS?
Yeah, I think so.
What,
Yeah, we
Jody?
did discuss this, but I didn't submit it as a budget project because they had they had a bigger list than yours, I think.
I totally agree that it's an ENS project and not a Parks project, because the only Parks element is at the very bottom when it enters Riverdale Park.
Mhm.
Right.
I don't understand how the Henry Hudson Parkway is involved at all, because the Parkway is actually lower than where Alderbrook starts from, which is up towards the top of 247th Street. It comes up out of the ground, I think it's spring-fed, and runs behind some private houses as it meanders down into the park. So it's already where it comes out of the ground, Jody, at a higher, much higher elevation
I'm
than
just
Henry Hudson.
repeating what Jane Sokolow told me was a problem, and she actually lives right on the house where the brook comes under past her house and comes out right at the top of Spalding Lane. So I just, I took her word that she knows what she's talking about, but if you want to make it just the parks piece of it, that would be fine. And I'd still have the language saved. I can suggest it to ENS for the other piece of it.
Is there a world where it makes sense just to restore Alderbrook Stream? Just that part, because you were describing kind of runoff or like that it was eroded and that the edging of it needs to be kind of softened and
Yeah,
and
a lot
made
of
and
what-
restored.
A lot of what I wrote was to explain what, to the committee, why I was asking for these things.
Right, but it would be maybe just enough to say that restoring Alderbrook Stream would allow it to function more effectively during rain and just encourage. I mean, it should be, you want to have healthy streams in your parks.
Yeah, that's fine. You could just delete the whole front part.
Okay.
Thanks, Dave.
So then the next would be, what's the ADA element of the dog run?
So
for
so
Independence?
yeah, so Ramda, I think like this one is it's upgrading the Fort Independence Park dog run to improve the ADA accessibility and to add shade and water for the dogs. And then David, the ADA accessibility is that there's a lip right now, the entrance to the dog run, every time it rains, the lip washes out. And so we have a couple of folks who are in wheelchairs who have dogs and they can't get into the park.
Oh, okay.
So, so John and Aquarius have to put fresh mulch in front of the entrance to the park over and over again, and it just gets washed out again. That's kind of an ongoing chronic issue.
And I would imagine mulch is hard to wheelchair over, right?
Yeah, I mean, they're electric wheelchairs too, so they're
heavy.
They're heavy. She needs considerable help to get in.
So something like cobblestones or something or other that.
Yeah, or properly grading it, with gravel, like even just fine gravel, or
Okay.
I'm sure there's got to be something that the parks can do. It's really that there's a cement lip to the entrance, which is good because it keeps the soil on the inside of the dog run in theory. But I think what I understand is that the surface of the dog run is kind of an old surface that they don't use anymore, and that they have better ways of stabilizing the surfaces of the dog runs now, and that they would be able to make it just a more stable surface so that she can wheel in and out without the erosion.
Roughly, I mean, very
No,
roughly.
no pun intended, right? Rough.
Right, right, yeah. Roughly, how many square feet are we talking about? 20,
dog-
120,
The dog
300?
run?
Well, no, the area that needs this ADA accessibility, this lip.
Oh, the lip is about probably 3-4 feet wide. I would say it's probably the ADA minimum, so like about 4 feet wide, and the walkway itself is probably 20 feet. But that,
Okay,
I mean, I
that
don't,
sounds like a under 35 grand and probably an expense project, not a capital project.
well, and to add some shade to the dog run and to improve the surface of it, I feel like, so that it doesn't erode any further, probably gets you into, and it's more than 5 years. So the time length of it as well made me think
5
that it
years
was
for
was
What's the last
capital.
part, Deb? Sorry. After the shade?
I don't think we need to stipulate how long or wide the,
Right,
yeah.
right.
just to
No, that was
say-
for my education.
Yeah,
It just sounds like a small area, that's why I was
it's
wondering.
definitely a small project. But because of the length, like because of the length of time it would in theory be capitalized over, and then it's more than $35,000. I mean, anything is more than $35,000. That's why I thought capital, just a really inexpensive capital project
Do you happen to have a picture of it,
of the dog run.
with the area you're talking about specifically?
Probably I have so many pictures of the park, I'm sure.
Or is it something that one could see via Google Earth?
No, because it's right in the middle of Fort Independence.
Right.
I mean, I know cars have driven in the middle of Independence, but I hope they weren't working for Google at the time.
No, Google Earth.
Oh, Google
A
Earth.
satellite picture of it shooting down?
Maybe. Let me look. I'll look.
All right, yeah,
What
Deb,
is,
why don't you and I
wait,
talk
what
about
is the
this
question,
offline?
David? Is it the dog run?
The
sorry?
dog run. He's having a hard time, I
The
think.
dog run's completely open, right, Deb? I mean, it's wide open. There's no shade in there.
There's no shade. No.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to picture the area that needs the work. And it sounds small to me, but Deb, why don't you and I talk about this offline?
Sure.
Can you give me a call whenever and maybe we can do Google Earth?
Well, I'll see if I can find Google Earth while we're here,
Okay,
but we can carry on.
All right, Deb, is that language okay, or do you want to add anything else?
Improve shade, and drinking, and upgrade the drinking fountain. The dogs use the people drinking fountain. So
well, anytime you bring in plumbing, then it goes over 35,000.
it actually has plumbing. It has, there's a regular drinking fountain nearby, and the dog run itself has a hose connection that
Okay.
for gardening, so that we could probably still not ridiculously expensive, but yeah,
Okay, I was just kidding, but
but
that's fine.
it's very true.
All right, bringing it back, we do have, are we okay with leaving the route iron boundary in Van Cortlandt Park under Washington's Walk? Or are we moving up Riverdale Park? And all in favor of moving Riverdale Park above Van Cortlandt Park?
Wait, what do we,
So Riverdale Park, this one, are we moving this one above or keeping Van Cortlandt Park route iron boundary where it is?
so I would keep the wrought iron boundary where it is, and I would move Fort Independence Park dog run up one, and then have the last two be the Riverdale Park one and the Mosholu Golf House one. That's what
All in
that's how
favor
I would
of,
organize it.
all in favor of moving Fort Independence Park above Riverdale Park? Just raise your hand. I see David, Deb, Bob,
Deb and Rob.
Rob, perfect. Okay, and oops.
Ramda, do you know you can click on a whole row
Yeah,
Cut
it
it
just changed.
and insert it above?
It just changed. It just makes it weird. So I just
Okay,
I just
okay,
put
bud.
manually.
Whatever works, whatever floats your boat, my friend.
It's just, yeah. And are we in favor of keeping Riverdale Park and then Mosholu Golf House where it is? Raise your hand, all in favor. Good, 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 perfect. Capital is done. So just to recap, it's Bailey, Old Fort 4, Van Cortlandt Stadium, restrooms at Van Cortlandt Park, Spot and Dival Shorefront Park, Washington's Walk, the Route Iron Fence boundary in Van Cortlandt Park, Fort Independence Park, Riverdale Park, and Mosholu Golf House. All right.
All right.
Bob, is your hand up from something else, or is that?
No, sorry, I forgot to take it down.
Oh, no worries. I just wanted to make sure I was getting. All right.
Also, I just want to note, I think we're in agreement or understanding that this business of connecting the sewer, isn't that sort of something we're trying to convince ENS to convince DEP to say, you guys really should do this under the water treatment plant process, right?
Yeah, I think that the ENS's opinion mostly is that it should be done as part of the mitigation process
Yeah.
for the FMC.
Mitigation, right?
Stephanie.
Sorry, I didn't know you were gonna call me so fast. As soon as we're done with capital, I did want to just make sure that I was able to say a couple of things about daylighting and other things in Van Cortlandt.
Yeah, I have you on the agenda.
Okay.
All right. Now moving on to expense. Lord of mercy. All right. So there are actually only 4. Amazing.
5.
Actually, no.
No,
There's
yeah.
3. This is actually a capital project.
That's a capture project, yeah.
Whoopsie daisy. And all right, so here is the expense ones. Here we have the gardeners and other personnel again, maintenance of lawn, landscape areas, and sidewalk green streets. Then we have DPR PEP personnel to alleviate with assistance of NYPD, like illegal use of Putnam Trail by electric bikes. Then we have the mini packer. Stephanie, you didn't get this one, right? This one wasn't funded, the mini packer, right? And then the packer garbage trucks. Stephanie, you were gonna say something? Sorry.
No, we did not get the mini packer and we really need it.
Okay. So those are the only 4 things that came out of the meeting last month, and these were the things that were not funded fully last go around.
So under the gardeners and personnel sufficient for proper maintenance of lawns, landscape areas, and sidewalks. That seems almost like a 1% argument, right? It's like, I don't know what I mean to say from that. I mean, I guess that the hope is that if you ask for like the mini packer or something really specific as kind of a number 1, like I feel like our number 1 should be really specific. And then like the gardeners and personnel, like that's a, pardon the pun, an evergreen thing. And that a lot of that would be resolved if we actually got 1% funding in general, I would think. Stephanie, is that true? Is that a true statement? Say if the parks had 1%, they would hire gardeners and maintenance staff?
Yes, personnel for sure. And I also just want to point out that the last 2 on this page, there's a little bit of repetition, like there some things are twice. So like in that last one, it says an additional large garbage truck is requested by VCP Alliance. You can just delete that because the large garbage truck is a packer garbage truck.
Oh, this was 2 separate things submitted last go around.
Yeah, it just needs a little bit of editing. So
I think wait though. I think one is for
parks in general. Yeah. So
Okay.
equipment, 2 large 16-yard packer garbage trucks. That's just for the Bronx, for not for Van Cortlandt Park, for others. But you can.
So remove this one, an additional large garbage truck.
Yep.
Perfect.
So then you can make it 1. So it says equipment, 2 large 16-yard packers. So it would just be 1 large 16-yard packer.
Yep.
Can we go? Yeah, the PEP one. It's all valid, but it also seems like we're trying to micromanage how the enforcement people act. They should be on bikes. They should be on horses. They should be checking for ATVs, etc. I mean, these are all valid concerns, and barbecues. These are all valid concerns about what goes on in Van Cortlandt Park, but it just seems like a whole lot of instruction of how it should be managed.
I have a question. What was the rationale for this one last go around? If anyone remembers.
Well, the PEP personnel, they're completely underfunded. We just don't have enough people. So like barbecuing, there's never anybody to go around and to educate or enforce. I mean, it might be sufficient just to say PEP personnel like sufficient to match park department priorities for parks in the district, is particularly in Cortlandt Park.
Or to properly manage, properly monitor, or I'm not coming up with the right word, but
Well, to properly enforce park rules and
Park rules and
regulations. Yeah.
regulations, yeah.
There you go. It
What
helps
are you,
when
a
you have
parks
the right words.
administrator?
Come through. Teamwork. So I'm eliminating all of this.
Yeah. That's,
Yeah,
that's
but
what that
well,
all that is.
those words,
I wouldn't eliminate all of that. I think
Yeah.
that's the argument for why we actually need these people. We have, you know, we have bikes and motor vehicles illegally in the park. We have a problem with double parking on Broadway alongside the park,
Mhm.
which is, you know, primarily PD and not PEP. But just the same, I think it really helps to spell out why we need these PEP officers, because we do have a lot of need for them in the park. The illegal barbecuing every summer
absolutely.
is you know, and not just in Van Cortlandt, in the other
Everywhere.
parks is a big issue. So
Rob Dott.
I would not eliminate all of this.
No, I
explanation
wouldn't either.
for the
Rob
need.
Dott. I would, can you move your cursor to the NYPD in the second line?
Right here?
Yes, hit the return key, and then you and I will work on that language.
Okay.
So a line break, hit the return key. There you go. You and I can work on that language because Bob is right.
Okay.
But I mean, the first part is the sort of the title, sufficient personnel to properly enforce rules and regs. And then we go into the explanation
Okay.
later, but you and I can talk about that.
And does this D was meant to be a B, like Community Board 8?
What?
Yes. Yes, it should be CB8 parks.
Because it's in OMB, it was CD08. So I was confused by that.
I think it's a district,
It's actually a
Right.
district. It's CD, David.
CD8, yeah,
Right.
for the
So
parks.
I'm
Department.
leaving it as C. Okay, I was confused by that. Okay.
Also, I was just noticing under Van Cortlandt Park Equipment Mini Packer, it says, we joined CB8 Public Safety Committee in requesting a second gator for the 50th precinct. Did they end up getting their second gator?
Nope.
No, but actually,
That should be its own
Uh,
budget item, I think.
but Captain Gervin said, I've got a gator. Actually,
Yeah,
I think
let
it
me
was a
ask
John
him.
Deere, but the same thing. He doesn't seem to want it.
We'll check with him.
Yeah,
He might-
yeah, please do check with them. And Ramdad, you may want to check with Ed, but I was at, I was at the meeting the other night and the captain basically said, no, we've got, I think, a John Deere rather than a gator, but he didn't seem concerned.
All right. So are we moving Mini Packer to above personnel?
No,
No.
Okay.
sorry, Stephanie.
So then we're keeping Gardner.
it's good as is.
So
Mhm.
all in favor of keeping personnel first? I see everybody's agreeing. Then we get into the conversation about PEP personnel. Are we keeping that second? And then Mini Packer. Okay,
And
see,
then, so does Stephanie have a preference over well, I guess one is a district need and one is a Van Cortlandt Park need. So I guess
yeah,
I know what Stephanie's preferences.
she's like, get me my Mini Packer. I know.
Well, hey,
Joe, you snooze, you lose.
Joe didn't show up to the meeting, so
Oh, this is
he
how
loses his vote.
the sausage gets made.
All right, so I guess expenses as is.
Yep.
Yes, with one correction, can you call Putnam Greenway? It's no longer the Putnam Trail.
Where is that one?
Second from the bottom.
Which one am I looking at?
It says
The,
illegal use of Putnam Trail.
PEP personnel,
Oh, okay,
Thank
sorry.
you.
illegal use of Putnam Trail.
Putnam
Sorry.
Greenway.
Right?
No.
Right
Yeah.
above, move your cursor up 2 lines, Ramdot.
Oh,
Go left. There it is.
what am I changing it to? Greenway, right?
Greenway.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Sorry. I've been up since 5:30. I apologize. All right, great. So all in favor of keeping the expense as is, just raise your hand. So we have something for the vote. Great, great, great. No abstentions, all in favor. Amazing. So this is one, sorry, I have to put this down so I remember. All right, let me save it. Perfect. All right, amazing. Capital and expense is done.
So you and I will go over this, Ramdad, put it in the right format,
Yep.
and folks realize that actually this is still preliminary.
Yeah.
That is to say, next month, we'll in advance of the meeting, Ramdad, you'll send this out, the finalized version, and then we'll actually vote on it.
Mm-hmm.
But this is tremendous progress.
Amazing. And now I'm gonna turn it over to Stephanie.
Woo! So, so Tibbetts daylighting, there continue to be lots of meetings between DPR and DEP. And so just kind of piggybacking on something that was said earlier, where you're looking to have a joint meeting with, with sanitation and parks. So what DEP is suggesting is that there will be a meeting on April 19th, which will be concept plans will be shown, and that's for that stakeholder engagement committee, which I think all of you are on. Yes?
We didn't.
In theory, but not in fact.
Okay,
to my
but you
knowledge,
all
we didn't-
went.
We didn't get
you-
the April 19th meeting date.
No, you didn't get that date because I don't think they've sent that out. I'm
Okay.
sharing that. I'm sharing that with you now.
Okay.
But the previous date you were at that first meeting, right?
About a week ago, yeah.
Yes,
Yes,
about a week
yeah.
ago. Thank you. Yes. So this next one coming up is on April 19th, and it's the same group. It's Community Board 8, the Cortland Park Alliance, BCEQ, and City is Living Lab, and I guess a couple of other people. But essentially, it's that sort of core group that they're considering the stakeholders, or the Tibbetts. I'm sorry, they changed it from the stakeholders to the Tibbetts Brooking TAG team advisory group. So you'll see the concept plans on April 19th. And then what they're thinking will happen next is that there'll be a presentation at the Parks Committee of Community Board 8 in May or June. But I'm wondering if that, now that I'm realizing that you're all on that committee, I'm wondering if that is redundant.
Probably helpful for the public to come and see the presentation.
Mhm.
And so the public can come to this committee meeting, to the
Yeah.
Parks Committee meeting?
Parks
Okay.
Committee, sure.
Blast it out to
Okay.
the entire,
Okay.
whoever's on the CBA's listserv, and it's also in the newsletter. It's also blasted on social media, so
So they're looking at May 25th or June 29th as the day that they would do that presentation. And so I'm wondering if that could be the combined presentation with sanitation.
You said May 25th?
Well, because I think that is that your meeting date, May 25th?
That would be, but ENS, I believe, is a week before us,
Mhm.
typically. And what's the other date in June? It would be
June 29th. Yeah, so they're looking at the Parks Committee dates, basically.
I would aim for May, because after, all we have left is June, and we're largely off for July and August.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So the other thing about June is that the committee meeting would be on the 22nd, not the 29th.
Mhm.
It's the fourth
Okay,
Wednesday, not the last. But I
I will
agree
let
with
them know.
everybody else. It's better in May than in June.
Okay. I will light a fire.
All right.
Can I ask
So
one
I'll have to
question?
like touch base with Bob and see if they would be interested in moving their meeting later than usual, if they agree. Because last time for the December committee meeting, the parks moved our meeting up to match ENS's committee date. So I hope this time ENS will be flexible and moving it back 1 week. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Stephanie, one thing I wanted to ask is, City is a Living Lab, was there an RFP or like, how did they become kind of the arts partner for this project?
A great question, Deb.
Was there a
Okay.
process?
Nope.
Mm-mm.
Huh.
Yeah, and they're not really local, so that's
Uh-huh.
it seems like it's like something that maybe should be revisited, or maybe, I don't know, I would like, unless there's like a solid grounding for their participation.
I have opinions and I don't want them to be noted.
That's
So,
fine.
Deb, I'm sorry, Stephanie, I have a question for you.
yes.
Where's your
CSX,
owl?
CSX, where are we?
As I've been told, it's still moving. They're like sort of deeply in negotiation. The city is moving forward as if it's going to happen.
Okay, but so it's still unresolved.
It's still unresolved.
It seems to be constantly moving in the right direction without actually
is-
getting anywhere or getting over the finish line, let's say. But okay, all right, I'll take that as positive news.
That would be city government, I guess.
Mhm.
It's moving.
Okay,
Okay,
I think we need Chuck Schumer to throw some elbows.
that'd be great. So I just wanted to give you those dates so you have them, so that you're not taken by surprise, because I think that the last meeting date just kind of came up on you kind of quickly.
Yeah, I'm gonna push for May 25th. I'll
Okay.
actually, I have a call with Bob Finuzzi tomorrow anyway, and I'll mention this to him.
And this is not being previewed with anyone, correct?
Meaning the
Ru-
plan is not being previewed, or?
Right, with any subset? Because it seemed like it was, the last go round, it was previewed.
So the only people that it would be previewed by are parks and DEP. Like that's how it's working, is like there's an internal working group.
Okay,
We workshop it, and then like the next part of the process is to share it with this smaller stakeholders group. Once we have buy-in from the stakeholders group, then it would go to the next, which is the community board.
okay, but it's not being previewed with any non-agency people.
No.
Okay,
No. In fact, a big part of the conversation is to just make sure that we keep it tight so that there aren't multiple meetings,
right.
because you wind up promising things to different small groups, and then other people get upset because they're seeing it first or second or whatever. So
Exactly my point. Yes, thanks.
so that's it about daylighting. If anybody has any other questions or concerns about that, let me know. Okay, and then just in general, Van Cortlandt Park, I'm just going to move on and I'm going to zoom through. Graffiti in general is very, very, very bad. It is not just bad in Van Cortlandt Park, it's bad all over the city, and particularly in the Bronx. And we did have an incident on February 24th in Classic Playground with anti-Semitic and racist language, which I'm sure you're all aware of. We were able to get rid of it that day. So my team was like out there. NYPD was there immediately. Captain Griffin was there at 8:30 in the morning with me. Like, he's on it. And speaking of NYPD, we met yesterday at the 50th precinct. So PEP did a great thing. They initiated a meeting with NYPD, and we had like a pre-spring getting ready for the madness kind of a meeting, talking about things like noise in the park, ways in which NYPD can support what is going to go on. There's going to be a bunch of sting activities that happen to confiscate vehicles. They're going to do that again. We'll put them on the calendar. They're going to do a bunch of kind of sting activities and make sure that they move double parked cars along and give them summonses. They did a really, really good job last summer, and they're going to stay on top of it. They're going to make sure that the double parking is kept to a minimum and moved along and people get their tickets. So that's kind of the main thing. They're also going to do a little, they like the sting activity. They're going to do something regarding graffiti. We have actually a very, very bad problem over on the Woodlawn side of the park. So they're gonna, they're gonna see if they can do a little stakeout and see who's doing it.
That is the Sakura playground, right?
No, not Sakura, Woodlawn.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
No, I have another thing going on behind Sakura. I have a lot of homeless activity in the park, a lot. And I have a serious number of encampments throughout the park where we just started to dismantle another one today right behind Sakura, and we're going to go and remove it tomorrow. It's quite bad. It's quite bad.
That
But
area
also,
always had a large home. I grew up in Norwood. I grew up on DeKalb. So
Oh.
that area always had a large homeless population. So
yeah,
it's crazy now that they're sleeping in the park rather than
it's really
in the
sad.
train
It's
station.
really sad. Okay, moving on to happier things. In 2 weeks, we have a scheduled breakfast with cross-country athletic directors. We're already starting to schedule and give permits for cross-country season in the fall. And we're working with them to talk about double parking and all of that stuff to keep things moving. So I'll keep you posted on that. In case anybody doesn't know, because we now have First Deputy Commissioner Iris Rodriguez Rosa in her new role, we don't have a Bronx Borough Commissioner yet. We're waiting to hear. We are going to be visited by Commissioner Donahue on Friday in Van Cortlandt Park in the late afternoon. If anybody would like to stop by, we'll be at the Golf House. So if you want to come by and say hello to the commissioner, you're welcome to. It will be
What time?
well, they're saying 3:45, but she's coming from Orchard Beach on a Friday afternoon. I don't know. It could be much
That's
later than
after
that.
is that after the Bronx Zoo event?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So Bronx Zoo is lunch.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's going to be a big day for the commissioner. But also, in case anybody knew, former First Deputy Commissioner Liam Kavanaugh, he has officially retired. So I just wanted to let people know that in case there was a question. There will be movies in the park in July and August, and that is with the support of Councilman Dinowitz's office. So looking forward to that. There will be 4 movies. I am rooting for a theme of nature's revenge, and I will tell you more about that later. And
Where in the
Just-
park, Stephanie?
parade ground.
What?
Parade ground.
Okay.
Yeah, just don't make it ironic by having like more storm damage.
I will not. I will not.
Or the day after.
Right.
No, it's more like the birds and Jaws and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we're not putting any more storm damage into the universe this year, please.
No, please, please.
Jaws would be better over at Orchard Beach.
Or at the pool. I want to do a pool party, but I have to get permission. And the amalgamated stairs, Enzo was talking a little bit earlier about working with ACE.
Okay.
So that's a social services organization that helps homeless people and formerly homeless people have work opportunities. And so they are going to come and do a really nice cleanup over at the stairs that go from the amalgamated down to, the entrance to the Deegan. They're going to do some graffiti removal. They're going to come do a big cleanup. We're thinking it's going to be the week of April 11th. But then after that, it is hopefully going to be monthly. So that's really great because that area is kind of nasty.
Stephanie, I have a question.
Yes.
After you're done. Sorry.
Okay, and then the only other thing, just to continue to plug, we're doing our benefit, Van Cortlandt Park Alliance benefit on May 19th. We're honoring First Deputy Commissioner Iris Rodriguez Rosa and Sonia Manzano, who is Sesame Street's Maria. And thank you to those of you who have already contributed. I think you know who you are. So.
I didn't know the stairs by the amalgamated falls under Van Cortlandt Park's purview.
It does not. It
Okay,
really
'cause
does not.
those stairs are very shaky because I walked through
DOT.
that part to get to my parents' house because I walk from my house to Norwood, and I take those stairs up, and some of them are like crumbling.
Yeah,
So-
it's on the
It's
budget
DOT.
priority for TNT.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, we've been
That's
doing
great.
we've been adding Step Street, so I don't know where it'll get ranked, but yeah, that one made the radar.
So yeah,
That's
make
great.
that number one, please.
Well, Deb, we were talking about that entrance area, and the more I
Mhm.
look at it, the more I realize that should be a plaza. It should
Mhm.
be a pedestrian plaza there. And, Amalgamated Parks, its trucks there. It's so yucky. I think that there's so much opportunity to change the whole corner with those
Agreed.
stairs and all of it.
So is that a Parks capital project or is that a DOT capital project?
I think it's DOT property. It's
Is-
unclear to me, like
Where the park ends?
yeah, it's really
yeah.
unclear.
This is the bottom of the hill by Bailey Avenue.
Yeah, Bailey Avenue,
Okay.
Van Cortlandt Avenue South, where it turns from south to west.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And it really, I agree with Stephanie. Like, it seems to me, it looks like it should be a plaza, like it should be kind of the welcoming, obvious entrance to the park. But you need to you have to address how pedestrians get across the on-ramp to the Deacon. I mean, I did notice in the master plan for Van Cortlandt Park that there's actually a study to remove the on-ramp to the Deacon is in the master plan. I mean, is there actual discussion happening about like that entrance and doing anything at all?
There's some talk. Parks is talking with DOT about ways to kind of calm traffic more at the Broadway corner. I think that the removing, I just don't think it's like financially possible to change. Like, it just seems like it would be exorbitantly expensive. So there must be some ways that we could just make it safer without removing it entirely.
Right.
I mean, I would love it, but I just don't know if that's realistic.
Right. Just even having a sidewalk would be
Huge.
huge. Okay. Yeah. So I guess that would, I can follow up with Kira to confirm that's a DOT piece or whether that's Parks, that plaza.
That would be really helpful. That'd be really helpful.
Okay.
All right. Stephanie, anything else?
That's it.
Perfect.
A quick question for you then. Not to get too technical, but you talked about removing graffiti from classic playground. Just to get a sense of scale,
Mhm.
roughly how big was it? 10 square feet, 100 square feet?
Oh, of the
And
graffiti?
roughly how long did it take the crew to get rid of it?
Okay, so it was everywhere. It was on benches, it was on the slides, it was on the play equipment, and it was on the ground. So it was like on all different kinds of surfaces,
Okay.
which all need different kinds of treatment to
Right,
remove.
Right,
And
right.
so like the removing it from paint is easy because you just paint over it. Removing it from the slide, we tried a new product, which was actually, it worked. So that was really great. But you have to wait to remove that. And then in order to remove it from the play equipment, we in Van Cortlandt Park do not have the operation to remove it. You need a spray truck. So we don't have that in the Van Cortlandt Park level. That comes from the borough. So we had to pull a crew from something else to come and do it. But we did it because it was all really foul. I mean, like if it were just tags, we wouldn't have had like an emergency mode, but because it was really, really foul stuff, they came immediately that day. But basically the whole day was spent dealing with that graffiti.
Okay. Thank you.
Rob, you have your hand up.
Yeah, this is just a general question. When did they turn the water fountains on in Van Cortlandt Park?
I
Mhm.
think it's
Is it a
April
regular schedule?
1.
April
I think
1.
it's April 1, yeah.
All right. Any last thing, Stephanie? No? Okay, perfect. So next on the agenda, new business, anything new anyone has to bring up?
And one thing,
Okay,
real
go ahead.
fast. Real fast, Drone Park Friends and Neighbors. We do cleanup events around Drone Park Reservoir. We just had our first cleaning event last Saturday. We'll be having another one April 2nd from 9 a.m. to noon in Fort Independence Park. And then we will be having another one April 9th That one, it will be in Washington's Walk and kind of generally picking up litter around the reservoir. And that one's special because we'll be doing the litter cleanup from 9 to noon. And then at 1 o'clock, we'll be doing we planted 3 redbud trees in Washington's Walk last fall as a COVID memorial. And so we'll be having a little ceremony to remember folks who have died from COVID. And we invite people to bring the names of those they've lost, and we'll be reading them. So we'll just have a brief ceremony. I think we'll actually have some students performing as well from Cecilia Cruz School of Music. So it's all coming together, but it'll be at 1 o'clock on April 9th in Washington's Walk at the corner of University and Reservoir.
Deb, just do me, if you have a flyer, can you send that over to me so I can have our Kira or Pablo post it on Facebook and so, or Twitter or whatever?
I can make a flyer. I'll have my
If you
staff
need
do
help with one, just let me know. I'm pretty good at it.
That really sounds like a wonderful event, Deb. Thanks for organizing it.
I have a volunteer who's been just very dogged at both organizing it for the trees themselves and getting the trees which were donated, and then organizing this event. So she's just been really wonderful and just really feels very passionately about it. So I'm looking forward to the redbuds blooming. Hopefully this will be the first year they'll bloom.
Oh, wow.
And speaking of dogs, I'm looking at the Google map. Where in Fort Independence Park is the dog run? Roughly?
I'll do it really fast here. I'm going to share screen, Ramdot, and I got it on Google Earth just to save.
Oh, okay. I was going to do my own, but thank you.
I got you right here. I'm going to point it out. So here we are. Here we are over the Jerome Park Reservoir. You don't recognize it because there's water here in the picture. And then here is construction that for a moment I was like, is this the dog run? But no, this is ugly construction. And then this is the little dog run. And this is the big dog run. The little dog run is for bad dogs and then this is for the regular dogs that like other dogs. That's how we divide it up in the old Fort Independence. Timeout corner, real dog run. And then you can't quite see because there's a distorted tree here, but this is where the path would be.
Is
So
that a
unfortunately-
path to the main path?
Yeah, the main path is on, see here's the basketball
Basketball,
courts,
and yep.
handball, and then these trees represent the walkway of our
Okay.
lovely, gorgeous park.
Okay.
So you can't really, unfortunately, it's full summer, so you can't see through.
So would it be terrible if they just fixed the path to the path?
It would be
It
nice
would
if they
be much
just,
smaller.
it'd be nice if there was actually some shade here. That's the biggest.
I see. I see.
The entrance and the fact that there's not a lick of shade anywhere. It's really hot here in the summer. So. Stop share.
Thank you very much. That
Yep.
helps.
Anyone
problem.
else have anything, any new business? I do have one, just transparency. We are losing one member, who hasn't reapplied for, reappointment to the board. However, we may gain one, and Leona has applied to be a board member. So, and she's also very interested in joining the Parks Committee. And all right, so even though we're losing one, we're
Hey,
still,
who do we lose?
I'll tell you offline. I don't want it to be on record.
Hopefully it's not me.
Well, did you
It's
not
not any of
reapply?
you on this call. Imagine it was me, how you lose your chair? Crazy. So yeah, I'll tell you that offline.
Okay.
And any old business. I do have old business. Still no update on Fort Independence trees.
Ramdad, I apologize. I've got something early tomorrow morning. I've got to get off now.
Yeah, so
Okay, so I
That's
just
it.
say goodnight to everybody.
Good night,
do we
Gracie.
have a
Good night, Bob.
motion?
Night, Bob.
Any motion?
I moved to go to end the meeting.
Yes.
And
Wait a minute. What was
Second.
your old business? What, did I miss
Oh,
it?
yeah. Yeah, did you
Oh,
ever?
the Cedric trees. No update on Cedric trees.
Oh, the
Okay.
Sedgwick Avenue trees.
The
Yeah.
reservoir.
Yeah, you said the Fort Independence trees.
All right, I meant Cedric. My bad.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Any second to the motion to adjourn?
Stephanie, where's my owl?
Where's David?
David. All right, I'm
Bye-bye.
gonna stop recording. All right.
All right.